I was born and raised in Vancouver. I started in the business as an agent. And as an agent, I was interested in, of course, just getting the bands that I represented work. Okay, and I realized when I was in college, I was an economics major, and for some reason I was kind of enamored by the way Jimmy Hoffa ran the Teamsters Union in those days. And I believe that if I believe there's a point in the entertainment business, especially in clubs, when clubs were big and all of the artists in those days developed through clubs, that there was a figure that was a figure that was good enough for the club to make money and good enough for the band to make money. In those days, I had 17 clubs of my own downtown that I booked every 6 days a week, and I could pay bands in those days $1,500 to $2,500 a week. You can't even do that today, okay? But there was a job there for those guys, and I believe that those clubs could pay the bands that much and still make a lot off the liquor and the cover charge. And make no mistake about it, clubs is about selling liquor. Any club's about selling liquor, whether it's strippers, music, whatever you want to do, is to get people in there and drink. That's where the money is. So we had a great, vibrant club scene then. And out of that club scene, when Randy came over to work after he left the Guess Who, because he wanted to work, he needed a place to develop the bands, I could work him all the time. And after he'd worked with me for a year in the clubs and built Backbencher Overdrive and figured out what he was going to do so he could pay the guys there that were in his band at the time, he asked me to manage him. It was kind of like a logical step for him. It's a very logical step for me. I never thought I would take that step, although when I did take it, I took my agency and I brought in a partner to look after that agency, and I went out on the road with Randy Bachman and learned the business. There's not a job that BTO played in the ever that I was not there, okay, because I had to learn that as a crash course. And I believe you look back today, and when BTO sold more records than any other act out of this country, and one time sold more records than any other act in the world or in North America in 1975, and you look back, and there were some things that I learned then, too, is that if we go back in history and look at the biggest acts in the world, whether they're Elvis Presley, whether they're the Beatles, whether they're the Rolling Stones, whether they're U2 today or Bruce Springsteen, all those acts had one thing in common: one manager, one act. That manager got up every day and worked on that act, okay? And I think that acts make a huge mistake today by going to management firms with a roster. A roster is not what's important in a management company. What's important is the belief and the time that a guy can put into your career, because it's so competitive. It's so competitive. You need somebody to get up and eat and breathe and sleep and think about you every day to get you ahead. And artists who go because they think, I'm going to go there because this person has this act there. Well, guess what? You're going to be behind that act. We're all the same. We all try to jump on the winners and ride them hard. And if an act doesn't go to where he's going to get some attention, they're not going to make it either at the management level or the record company label. I always talk to acts. When Bryan Adams had a record, trying to put his record deal together, we sat down. Where would you like to be as an artist? What label can do a job with the music you make? In those days, it was A&M Records because they were very artist-friendly. They had a diverse label. They could look after the Police. They had Carole King. They had Herb Alpert was on it. Well, it's his label. Of course he was on it. But they had a bunch of acts that were very artistic. They had a very credible. So he said, if I could ever be on A&M Records, I would instantly have that credibility. So, we went there and were fortunate enough to make a deal. When we went to make a deal with Michael Bublé, Warner Brothers picked up on us because David Foster makes records that he understands Michael Bublé. He makes those types of records. There was a home there. He was an executive. He understood it. He'd made Josh Groban. He'd done Whitney Houston. He's got a tremendous track record of making records where Michael fit into the slot. Too many record companies, too many artists don't look at the home they're going to see really if they fit in to that slot. And because there's just like, if I was a rock band, I would like to maybe be at Atlantic Records when Jason Flom was running, because he knew how to work that project. I wouldn't like to take Michael Bublé to Atlantic Records because he wouldn't know what to do with him. I mean, he'd know what to do with them, but his company isn't set up that way. It's set up to break rock records. So I think you got to make some interesting decisions like that also. But when you get back to saying what's a manager's job, I keep saying the manager is the artist's best friend. It's you, the artist, and the manager against everybody else. The record company believes you're a profit center. The record company, after any one of my artists are over, you can guarantee Warner Brothers, EMI, Sony, RCA, I don't care what company, all these artists, they go away. Another artist comes down and takes their slot. And I remember talking to an artist, a record company president in Nashville, and saying, boy, you dropped that act. He said, Bruce, I just don't want to deal with them anymore. And you got to remember this. There's another cowboy with a guitar and a song coming down the street every day.